All right. I think that's working. I'm currently at school, so it's going to be a little bit different today. I'm sorry if the mic quality is not going to be the best because I have just a little microphone one here. But we're going to see how we go. We're going to start, and we're going to do the circulatory system anyway. And you get to see me, which is good for you. You get to see the person actually teaching this. So, what we're going to go through today is the circulatory system. Now, it's the next one after what we did last time. Would have been the respiratory system. So, we've done in our introduction, we've done our digestive system. Last week we did our respiratory system, and this week we're going to do the circulatory system. So the circulatory system is quite good. I'm a bit nervous this morning. All right, let's go. So I've just put a little like an inspirational quote there just to get us off to a good start this Monday morning. Do everything with a good heart and expect nothing in return. Just a real cheesy quote for you. The heart is a really, really important thing, and I think given doing stuff with a good heart is important. All right, so these are our learning intentions for today. We want to be able to identify the main functions of the circulatory system. We want to be able to describe the roles of the blood vessels, and the heart. And we want to be able to explain how the circulatory system interacts with other body systems. Okay, so the circulatory system doesn't work on its own. Just like all body systems, there's a couple of interactions there that we have to keep in mind. All right, what do you think it is? So let's just start off with some brainstorming. So I want you to have a think about the word circulatory system. Now, the base word for circulatory system is circular. So when something's circular, what does it actually mean? It means it's sort of just like, I'm not going to do it for you, but it's going around in a circle, just like a circuit. So circulatory system, think circuit. So things are constantly going around in a circle. What is the circulatory system? So, to start off with, the circulatory system is the system that circulates blood around the body. So, that's the first thing we need to know. It's the thing that circulates the blood, goes in a circle. There's two main types, there's oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Now, one of the things that we see, and we're going to see throughout this presentation, and you'll see in diagrams and stuff like that, is deoxygenated blood being blue. Deoxygenated blood is not blue, it's just how it's represented. Now, if everyone watching this has cut themselves at some point, I know I have. And when you cut yourself, blue blood never comes out. It comes out red. So it's always red. The main difference here is that oxygenated blood is really, really, really bright red, and deoxygenated blood is just a little bit darker. Now, the reason that is the case has to do with how there's a chemical in there called heme, and that's sort of like what your iron is. It has to do with that and oxygen. Um, Nonetheless, that's not important. What we need to know is that deoxygenated blood is not blue. The main function is blood mainly circulates through the arteries and the veins, so we'll learn about those in a second, to deliver oxygen to cells and take away carbon dioxide. That's probably one of the bigger ones that we need to take away from this. So what are its roles? We want to see that the roles of it, we've got the transport of nutrients, oxygen, hormones to the body, and waste for removal. So transports those four things. It protects the body. So there's two main things that we want to talk about here with white blood cells and clotting factors. And we'll learn very shortly that they're platelets. So none of you are able to donate blood just yet, but sometimes people need to be donated platelets. And we'll find out why at the end of this presentation. It also regulates body temperature, fluid, pH, which we learned a little bit about before. You know how we talked about the digestive system and we talked about how the acid in the stomach was something that helped break up everything. Ideally, we want a pH of about 7. So our circulatory system just helps to regulate that to try and keep it at a solid 7. The last thing there is the water content of cells, but we'll get to that. That's not the most important thing. Neither is the blood temperature, frankly, and the fluid. You would have heard something along the lines of it being cold-blooded and warm-blooded last year, probably, when you were talking about adaptations, and you talked about ectotherms and endotherms. It has something to do with that. What does it look like? So this is a diagram of the circulatory system. It's a very basic one, but the main things that it does, it consists, I've got my cursor here, so hopefully you can see it. The heart, so this is the heart. We've got arteries. Now the arteries are depicted as these red ones because we've got oxygenated blood coming through. Veins, so deoxygenated blood is going through the veins and goes back into the heart. Again, I'm going to go through this again. I suppose technically the blood vessels are pictured, but we'll get to that. And of course, there is blood. So this is kind of what it looks like, more or less. This is a very simplified one. If you were to really try to picture this in an actual person, veins and the arteries would take up every single portion here. It would be spread out all the way like a big root system in a tree. So this is a very simplified version of it to try and give you an idea of what it looks like. But blood has to go everywhere. If it doesn't go everywhere, we can't get oxygen to our cells, and that's really important. So the protagonist here, so this is the main player, is the heart. It's probably the most important part of the system, in my opinion at least. It takes deoxygenated blood from the body. So when we go through respiration, that process that we talked about in the previous lesson takes the deoxygenated blood from the body via the veins. So whenever we talk about the veins, we're always talking about deoxygenated blood. So it takes that, excuse me, takes that deoxygenated blood, sends it to the respiratory system. So first step, takes the deoxygenated blood, passes it off to the lungs and the respiratory system to be reoxygenated, and then sends it back to the body to provide the oxygen for the cells. That's the main part of the heart. And what does that look like? So we're going to go back to the screen, stop focusing on me for a second. These are the veins. So we've got our veins coming in here into we have a couple of components in the heart, right? So the first one here is the atrium, or the atrium sort of is where the blood pools for a minute, goes into the thing called the ventricle, and then the ventricle is the thing that squeezes it up. So it takes it and it goes boom, and it sends it off into these particular arteries. Now these arteries send the blood to the lungs. So if you can imagine it there, I am the heart. I've done my first pump of deoxygenated blood. It's gone out to the lungs, and then it comes back. So it comes back, and it comes back to this part. So now I've got oxygenated blood. It's gone into the left ventricle. So that's the smaller one. So probably over here as well. So this is the big right ventricle. Pumps it up, gets oxygenated, comes in through this part here, goes into that part, and then it comes up this part to the aorta. Now, if you look up here, it goes a couple of different ways. There's one portion that goes down to the body, so the lower parts of the body, so thinking about your stomach, your legs, your arms, all that sort of stuff. There's a bunch of ones that go up the body, so probably the most important one is our brain. So we want to make sure that we have blood going to the brain. We also need to make sure there's blood going to our eyes, our face, obviously really important. There is a really important reason why we need blood going to the eyes, and that's because it's very oxygen rich. We really need oxygen for that to be able to work. If someone passes out, for example, you'll find that their vision starts to go blurry, and it goes blurry because we sort of start to lose oxygen. If it happens, we lose oxygen to our eyes. So there's a video here, I've embedded it. All you'd have to do is go to the presentation and then click on this. It's a hyperlink, it'll take you through to it. It's an actual heart dissection, so you can actually see that heart beating. You'll see what that looks like, and it sort of takes you through what a heart dissection looks like. Now, it's not for the squeamish. There's blood. It's a real heart. It's not that graphic, but for some people, it's going to make them more squeamish than others. Now, later on in your high school life in science, if you manage to go through, and you might even get to do it in year 9, but definitely in year 11 biology, you'll get to dissect the heart because we go through the heart again. And it's a really, really great prac. I love doing heart dissections. All right, next part, the blood. Two main parts. We've got the red blood cells. We've got the white blood cells. The bell's just gone. So the oxygen that we breathe in. So sorry if it starts to get a bit loud. We've still got some people here. Oxygen that we breathe in attaches to the red blood cells, and that gets delivered to the rest of our cells. The other one is the white blood cells. Now, the white blood cells, they're responsible for keeping pathogens out of our body or keeping our body safe. They basically go, like you can see them there. They look a bit different to the red blood cells. So these are the red blood cells, and we've got the white blood cells here. They kind of look like these big balls, and they sort of, it's weird how they work, but they sort of chase around those pathogens. They chase them around and like swallow them up. It's really cool. I might even see if I can't embed a GIF into the presentation for you to look at. It's really awesome how it works. It chases the pathogen around the body. So two main parts. There's two more parts, not as important to know, but still kind of important. We've got those platelets, which are a component of blood. They're like little star-shaped things, and basically they all sort of like clumple up together like that. Kind of like, if you've ever gone to the beach, sometimes they have wave breakers there, and basically they sort of interlock to prevent blood from escaping our body. And we call that clotting. So if you get cut, so I cut my hand, for example, the platelets, they sort of start to do this, and my blood will stop pouring out of my body, hopefully. Plasma is the thing that all the bits dissolve into. So they're sort of like jelly crystals in water. Now, the blood vessels, three main types. We've got the arteries, so they always take the oxygenated blood from the heart. We've got the veins, which take deoxygenated blood to the heart. And then we have capillaries. Now, the capillaries are here. A couple of things, like they're sort of all over our body, but mainly they're sort of just the exchange of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. We wanted to talk about our learning intentions here, like the interactions with other systems. I just brainstormed a couple of them. Nervous system, our circulatory system provides that oxygen to our brain, for example. If we don't have our brain, it makes it very hard to move. We'd still be able to do a little bit, but we need our brain. And oxygen needs to go to the brain. If we don't get oxygen to the brain, we're in trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. The excretory system, so we'll talk about that in a later episode. But wastes are transported here. So in plasma, we take all these wastes and they go into the plasma, and then we put them through our kidneys. Now, kidneys are sort of on our backs here. They're sort of at the back. And they sort of go through this big loop, and they get rid of all of that waste. And that waste goes into our bladder. Basically, that's how we get urine. It's that blood goes into the kidneys, and then the kidneys filter it all out, and all that waste goes into our urine. The last one there, which is another important one, the respiratory system. Deoxygenated blood gets sent to the lungs. We breathe in, we get the oxygen, we breathe out. So really important in that sense. I like giving you like a disease associated with the circulatory system. So this one we're going to talk about haemophilia. So this is when someone doesn't create platelets. So without platelets, your blood's not able to do this. So if it's not doing that, when you get cut, what's stopping that from coming out? And the answer to that, if you have haemophilia, is nothing. You can get paper towel. You might be able to get like a bunch of things of paper towel, and you might be able to stop the spread of the blood. But if you get cut and you have haemophilia, be very, very, very dangerous, because you can lose a lot of blood and it can be fatal. So if someone has haemophilia, the platelets need to be donated from healthy people. So sometimes when you donate blood, you can actually donate platelets to those people that really need them. And it's very important for them. All right. Wrap up. Circulatory system is really important. It interacts with other systems. The main components are the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood. And the last thing we want you to do is to make sure that you've completed the Stile module and the assessment. Okay? I think that's it. That's done. All right. Hopefully I haven't gone too quickly there. Just want to make sure that you kind of got that. You can always rewind, go back, and make sure that you have understood everything. But I'm going to leave it there. Hope you've enjoyed. See you next time.